Welcome to the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, where we break down Bendis' iconic run on Ultimate Spider-Man, issues 1 through 160, in Earth 1610. I'm Zach, and with me as always is acclaimed podcaster John Opat. I can't say acclaimed for some reason.
Acclaimed that's tough, because you probably want to say
podcaster.
An acclaimed podcaster.
Is acclaimed podcaster John Opat. John, what's up? How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Glad to hear it.
How's your bracket, Zach?
I actually didn't fill one out this year.
Oh my gosh, what a dork.
My ISU got snubbed.
We should have done a listener bracket. Oh, man.
We didn't think of it.
If only this desk were a time desk. That's from Community.
Get to your TARDIS.
You don't watch.
No, I don't. My alma mater got snubbed from the tournament.
Okay,
tournament. So I'm like Indiana State.
Oh my gosh, they did get snubbed. They play today. 7.5 point favorites against
in the NIT,
Minnesota. Maybe. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Go figure. They finally start being good after I've graduated, and I used to be able to go to the games for free.
Yeah, they were one of the top snubs this year. That's a bummer, man.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
how's your bracket going?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Haven't been following.
I did fill one out, but I couldn't even tell you what my picks are. Apart from Purdue winning it all, I have no idea who else I picked. If it gets filled out in like 2 minutes,
Yeah. I don't watch nearly as much college basketball as I'd like. I pretty much hardly ever watch college basketball, but every year my bracket looks about the same. I'm like, I know Duke's good. I know UNC's good. You don't bet against Tom Izzo. There's going to be some eights that make a run. That's about it.
Who were the okay, you said Duke and North Carolina's good. Okay. See, that's funny.
Kentucky.
You just named
Gonzaga. It's always the same schools.
Well, not really. You're kind of wrong here, because the way I think about Duke and Kentucky are they always flame out early. Like they never live up to their expectations. And Kentucky lost in the first round as a 3 seed or 4 seed or something. And Tom Izzo got spanked yesterday in the second round.
Okay. See, shows what I know.
By North Carolina, but they did get beat by North Carolina. So you were half right there. And then Duke plays today. I'm sure they'll win. It's
Gonzaga?
still only the second round.
How
Gonzaga, yes, Gonzaga made it to the Sweet 16 yesterday. So they've won 2 games now.
Okay, so I'm like batting 500 without watching any college basketball.
That's pretty good. Yep. Well, good. I'm glad to hear your bracket is going well. That you didn't make.
Right.
Listeners, tell us how your bracket's going.
Yes. Who do you got to win?
Zach, what else do you have going on this week?
Nothing. I started my new job, so that was kind of cool.
That's right.
Yep. Worked from home.
I sent Zach a gif of Mary Jane Watson saying, "Go get him, Tiger," on his first day at the office.
It meant a lot.
Yeah.
I worked from home half the day Wednesday, whole day Thursday, was off on Friday. So this was a very rejuvenating weekend. It felt really good going into today with it being Sunday and it feeling like it should be Monday or Tuesday.
Nice. Yeah, I had my spring break this week, and I just hate to say it, but I'm ready to go back to work. I just hate myself for even saying that sentence right there.
Well, isn't that a good thing? Isn't that better than not wanting? Because you're about to get what you want.
I would rather just be happy being home all day, but I don't do enough when I'm home all day. I sleep too late and don't exercise as much. I just have to go to work.
I hear you. I thought when I would be working from home, I was going to be cleaning, folding laundry, doing push-ups and squats, staying so active.
That's the dream.
Instead, I was like on my couch the whole time trying not to fall asleep.
Dude, yes. That's been like me for the past like 5 days.
They had me. So, when you start a new job.
Somehow I clean less and there's more dishes in the sink when I have all day to do them.
Oh my God, don't get me started on dishes. I said for like 4 days, I'm going to do the dishes tomorrow. And they just kept getting like higher and higher.
Yep.
So, when you start a new job and they have you doing some like bullshit training.
It's the worst part of every job is the first couple weeks.
I kid you not, I retook driver's ed this week.
Wow.
They had me do a 6-hour driver's ed online course just in case I drive a company car.
Wow. That's really annoying. Did you have to parallel park?
I didn't have like a driving test, but I like the online portion went through all of that.
Yeah. Nice. Did you pass?
Yes.
Great. Glad to hear it.
Yep. I can still drive. All right. We ready to throw it over to the Better Business Bureau?
I think so. Let's do it.
Every business says they're better. But the ones that earn and display the BBB seal back it up. It instantly identifies businesses that are committed to operating with integrity, honoring promises, and telling the truth. Makes you wonder why every business doesn't have it. So look for it, because it's looking out for you. That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
We're back, and we are back in Ultimate Spider-Man. It has been a minute.
A really long time.
Yep.
What even happened? Peter got bit by like an insect of some kind or something, and
I
then
think a tick.
Uncle Bay was on his way to the bank, or
yeah.
Okay.
Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru got set on fire by the
They're
stormtroopers. Yeah. No, it was the freaking vampire story that didn't make sense.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Or matter.
Yeah, Morbius. Yeah.
Yep. It was supposed to be like a 6-parter that they just nixed.
Yeah. Oh, poor Morbius.
Oh, he's doing fine.
He's
got
never
his own
getting
movie.
a fair shake.
Yeah. What we need is more Morbius. The people just haven't seen the brilliance yet.
You could say we need more BS.
Yes.
Yeah. What did I? Oh, what I just saw some GIF of Matt Smith. You didn't see Morbius, and neither did I. So we won't be able to come up with what the GIF was saying because I don't remember. But it was something. It was like Matt Smith walking like a badass in some way, and there was something. All right, there you go, listeners. You're welcome.
I'm sorry, John. That doesn't sound real. A British person has never walked like a badass in history.
No, that's true. No, he's an actor, though, Zach. He was playing an American.
Oh, okay. That's all right, then. Well, that's all right, then.
Dude, there are a couple lines in these issues that we're about to read that made me think of that. Well, that's all right, then.
Cowboy.
Neil Patrick Harris.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's funny. You'll have to tell me what those are.
Oh,
so issues 97 and 98. I'm taking 97. This is written by BMB, penciled by Mark Bagley, inked by John Dell and John Sybil, colored by Richard Eisenoff, and lettered by Corey Petit. And Peter is on the phone with Kitty, who has gone silent and is glaring. And Peter asks if she hung up, and Kitty says no. And he asks her what's wrong, and Kitty says, "So you're hanging out with this MJ again?"
I already have a big problem here, Zach.
What's that?
I don't like the way she said that. You're hanging out with this MJ? You know who she is.
Yeah.
You know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right away, I'm like, oh, that's right. Peter and MJ, like, hugged at the end of last issue. Okay, I'm back on Team MJ. These two have to break up. You know? They've had a good run, but it's time.
Gonna have to disagree with you there, partner, but we'll continue. So Peter says, "What? No, that's not what I said. I'm not hanging out with her. We go to school together." And Kitty's like, you just said she helped you deal with all this vampire stuff. And Peter tells her MJ saw that he was upset and talked to him about it because they're friends. Just friends. But Kitty is still upset. And Peter says, "Is this?"
And she says, "Well, that's great." And it made me think, going, "Well, that's all right then."
That's funny. Okay, I can see that. And Peter tells her, he's like, "Is this because I didn't call you? I called you. You were out being an X-Man." And she starts crying and says, "You don't see how this kills me inside?"
Dude, she's like going crazy. I don't understand what she means when she's like says that. I like don't get it. I actually don't.
I'm trying to see her side of things, and I think it would be a lot easier if she didn't live in the same house as her ex-boyfriend, Iceman.
See, I didn't even think of that, but that even is against her even more. Not because like she's doing something wrong, but because they just go to the same school.
Yeah, that's the trump card that Peter could play and never does.
Don't you go to the same school with your ex-boyfriend? Oh, Peter.
Don't you have to talk to him?
Yeah, come on.
And Kitty yells, "You're in love with her." And Peter looks shocked. And Kitty says, "Oh my God, you didn't break up with her because you hate her. You broke up with her because you thought you had to keep her from getting hurt." And at this point, I'm like, yes, he told you that on his first date.
Well, I think she's yelling it at him, like telling him that, not like questioning it, you know?
Right. But he did tell her that. He's like, yeah, we had to break up because I couldn't keep her
I think
safe.
She's like reminding him of that. Like, remember, you didn't break up with this girl because you didn't want to be with her. You still want to be with her, you know? And that's a good trump card from her. When she said that, I was like, ooh, she's got a point.
Valid point. And Aunt May walks in the house and says to Peter, "Hi, honey, I'm home." I hate it when
crazy women make good points. Oh.
So Aunt May walks in and says, "Hi, honey, I'm home." And Kitty's like, "Is that her?" And Peter tells her it's Aunt May and hangs up. That's also not a great look for Kitty, is like hearing another woman's voice, and it says, "Hi, honey, I'm home." And she immediately thinks, oh, it's the other 15-year-old girl in his life.
Yeah.
Man, I really want to, like, you know, be on Kitty's side here. I really want to ride with her, but that was a bad look.
Sometimes women, especially teenagers, you know, their hormones are all out of whack. She's allowed to act crazy for a day. You know?
And God knows he's done it multiple times.
And men can act crazy too. Okay. It's not only women that can act. Yeah, exactly. Peter acts crazy too.
Yeah. And May says, "Who was that?" And Peter says, "The sheriff of Crazy Town." So there's that word John keeps throwing around.
That's why I didn't feel bad about throwing it around.
I was so prepared to come in here and talk about how Peter is absolutely in the wrong for saying that, and he should be honored that he's graced with the presence of these women. And the funniest thing about this is he says, "Oh, it was the sheriff of Crazy Town." And May's like, "Oh, you and MJ got back together?"
That is really funny.
Which itself has layers.
That's a tremendously witty comment from Aunt May. She's sharp as a tack still.
That is such a dig against MJ from her. And Peter's like, "No, there's a new sheriff in Crazy Town." So he's not denying that MJ has been the sheriff of Crazy Town.
It tells you that Aunt May and him have had this conversation before about MJ, you know, like she's been referred to as the sheriff of Crazy Town before.
Which is not great, but it's very fun. This is just what he does to his aunt. He doesn't describe the girls that he's dating that he loves. He tells her about the new sheriff of Crazy Town.
Yeah. I like he and Aunt May's relationship.
You want to know what's crazy? Like, earlier this week, I was on Twitter and someone posted this panel and just said, "This is so funny." And I was like,
and it was this one.
It was this panel, and I was like, I think that's the issue we're going to be reading this weekend.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Kitty is crying and says to herself, "No, I'm not in love with her. That's all it would have taken."
Okay, but before that, she says 2 simple words. No, I'm not in love with her. That's all it would have taken. What is she referring to when she says 2 simple words?
I omitted that because I love my girl Kitty, and I didn't want to point out the fact that she can't count.
She's not even close.
It's not a great look.
It's like 9 words.
Listen, she's a very bright girl.
This must have been... I just don't know, because the same writer would have written all of this. I just don't know. There must be like a panel missing or something.
Dude, she's emotional. She's not actually counting out how many words that sentence is.
Yeah, but 2 is a very easy number to count to.
What do you want me to say? There's no logical explanation to this.
I wanted you to be like, well, actually, John, Jonathan Hickman had this edited out and a different artist did this panel, and that's why it says this.
Nope. She's just losing it.
Okay.
But it is very sad seeing her alone in her room, like realizing that he's still in love with his
bad
ex.
About her.
And meanwhile, he's over at his house calling her the sheriff of Crazy Town.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, moving on. Later at school, Peter runs into MJ. Hey, look at that. It's that girl that he was just talking about. And they start talking.
Oh, she's the best.
Every time we see a new girl, we're like, yeah, okay, actually, you know what? She has some good points.
Yeah.
And they start talking, and she asks him how he's doing and what he's up to, and he says he's going to swing around for a while. And she tells him not to, that his head's not in the game, and he's going to get sloppy, and he needs a break. And this all seems like it's coming out of nowhere. Apparently she's talking about the vampire thing, but I don't think that was that big of a deal. But whatever. She's like, you need a break. Come with me. And he asks, where are we going? And she says, your favorite place. And we get a close-up of Peter's face saying this is no one's favorite place. And John, just given what we've seen for almost 100 issues of this book, do you have a guess where she took him to?
I had no idea.
This just catches you by surprise every time.
I was like, where would his favorite place? Yeah, no, I had no idea. I could have guessed it. Afterwards, I was like, oh, of course.
Where's like the only place these kids ever go when they're not at school? So we see a big panel of the two of them eating in the food court at the mall. And Peter tells her he appreciates what she's trying to do here.
I had this pit in my stomach because I was like, oh my God. And the X-Men always go to the mall. They're going to see Peter and MJ. This is going to cause a huge thing. I don't like this. I don't like where this is going.
Well, he did just tell Kitty, no, we're not hanging out. We just go to school together.
I know,
and then
they
immediately
go to
do?
the mall. And then they immediately go to the mall together. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like just bad news, man.
Behind his girlfriend's back, he immediately goes out to eat with his ex that they were just talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Peter's like, I appreciate what you're trying to do. And MJ's like, what's that? And he says, be friends again. And John, early in the series when you were like, I don't like Gwen. I think she's got ulterior motives. I think she's sneaky. I think she's trying to get with Peter. He is reading the situation as, you're just trying to be my friend. We're here as friends. She never confirms that. She asks him, what do you think we're doing here? And he's like, oh, obviously we're just friends. And she doesn't say anything.
She's definitely being sneaky. We can all be a little sneaky sometimes, Zach.
We can. Yep. We believe in women's rights and women's wrongs. And Mary Jane doing a women's wrong here.
She definitely is.
She's breaking girl code.
Yep.
And she tells him that
different, but it's different. Here's why it's different.
Because
I
it's
like
her.
Mary Jane.
Yeah.
because her and Peter did date for a long time and they have a history, whereas Gwen was just like the new girl at school. So like,
well, that's all right then.
Neil Patrick Harris is getting a lot of love in this episode.
NPH, come on the pod.
Yeah.
And she tells him that she's making him a new costume because she saw on TV that he had ripped his. And Peter says he tried to patch it with blue packing tape, and they both start laughing when they're approached by Mark Raxton. And he asks MJ if this is the famous Peter Parker, and then leaves. And Peter's like, what was that about? And MJ tells him that they went out after the two of them broke up. And Peter says he doesn't think he wants to hear this, and the two of them go silent. Dude, you're soft. You are dating someone. Like, she went on one date, and he's like all of a sudden getting sad about it.
I don't think he's getting sad about it. He just doesn't want to hear it. You wouldn't either.
How does he think she feels about Kitty?
He's not talking about her.
I guess. So MJ tells Peter nothing happened, and he says okay. And she says, I talked about you all night, and ticked him off. And Peter says good, and asks if she's gone out with anyone else. You don't think this is a little jealous?
I mean, dude, of course there's like a little bit of jealousy. Of course it is. He's like talking to his ex-girlfriend, but I think he's playing it cool,
Okay. I'm Kitty's defense attorney here. And I am prosecuting the case against Peter Parker.
He's being a good boyfriend.
Is he?
Maybe.
Where's he at right now? Who's he sitting with?
They're just friends.
Is this during school hours, John?
I know. Who's like watching these kids?
You could ask that question for this entire book series. And MJ says no, she hasn't gone out with anyone else. She says, everyone's pretty sure we're getting back together eventually. It's like I have a scarlet P on my shirt. So then what are you doing right now? This goes back to when he said, I appreciate what you're doing here. And she's like, what do you think that is? Everyone is telling her you're going to get back with Peter.
Are they not allowed to be friends, Zach?
They are.
Can boys and girls not be friends?
Oh, they can.
We can't go share corn dogs on sticks together at the mall.
She knows what she's doing.
I'm just saying that they are like best friends, So they can still hang out together. And she is like the only one who knows about all of his stuff. So I think you gotta give them. They're all just kids, man.
They are all just kids. That's the thing here is like, truthfully, you can see why, Peter's mad at Kitty, Kitty's mad at Peter, Kitty doesn't like MJ, MJ doesn't like Kitty. You can see their reasons, but no one particular person is necessarily in the wrong most of the time. It's just conflicting teenage emotions.
Yeah. It's usually like Kitty's mad at MJ, MJ's mad at Gwen, Gwen's mad at MJ, MJ's mad at Kitty, and Peter is always just like oblivious to the fact that anything's going on around him or that he might be like doing something in the wrong.
There will come a day in this series where all of the women stop catfighting over him and just get along and are friends, and I cannot wait till we get there.
And Peter just has a revolving door of girlfriends.
For real. That's kind of what happens. Okay, so earlier you said Kitty was uncalled for when she was like, oh, so you were hanging out with that MJ.
I know, MJ does the same thing.
It goes both ways. MJ says, so how's what's-her-face? Haven't seen her skulking around school in a while.
I mean, wow. That's really rough. MJ.
He should get up and leave at that point.
And
And
he should at least be like, chill.
yeah. But he doesn't. He digs on her with MJ. He says, yeah, she's grounded. Oh, but she's a big fan of yours, let me tell you. And MJ says she doesn't trust you. And Peter answers, honestly, she doesn't even know me. Grow up. Get a life, man.
Kid.
You don't have to be dating Kitty Pryde of the X-Men. You can get on with your sad self somewhere else. Jackass.
Get him.
And just then there's an explosion and a mall kiosk goes flying. And Peter tells MJ to get out of there, and she says, okay, I'm gone. Which I did like that. It's like, okay, he finally got through to her, hey, stay out of dangerous situations.
Yeah, she's really trying to get back together with him here.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. She learned her lesson. She's gonna stay safe. She's getting away from the danger. That's cool. Good for her. And the crowd is panicking, and a toddler gets knocked from its mother's arms, and just before it can hit the ground, he's caught by a web, and Spider-Man holds the kid up and says, ta-da! And someone runs by and yells, oh my god, Spider-Man is trashing the mall. He's gone crazy. And as Peter is handing the kid back to the mom, she yells, get away from my baby, you monster. And Peter just looks at the reader and says, yep, should have seen that coming.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. You know, the woman in this panel, when she like drops her baby, she like trips and the baby just goes like flying through the air.
Yeah.
She's like the worst mother of all time.
The funniest thing...
And then she sees this person catch her baby and go to hand it back to her. And she's like, get away from my baby. What have you done?
And the funniest thing is the kid has Spider-Man shoes on.
Wow, he does.
So clearly she didn't hate Spider-Man enough to like not buy her kid Spider-Man shoes. But now that Spider-Man's saving her kid, he's a monster.
So clearly, let's figure out what happened here. Clearly, this baby is a child of divorce.
And the dad got the shoes?
And the dad bought the Spider-Man shoes.
Maybe she resents Spider-Man because the dad bought the kid the shoes. The kid's like, I like daddy because he lets me get Spider-Man shoes.
He buys the kid toys, Spider-Man toys. They probably got some wrist web shooters that the kid can go and play with.
And, really, she shouldn't have custody at all because when she should be watching the baby, she's out clubbing with her friends. And this is the first time she's been out in public with him in a month, and she drops him.
That's true. And she's hungover. She's strung out. She shouldn't be walking around the mall holding her son. It's asking to just fly out of her hands.
She's like snapping at Spider-Man because he didn't give the kid to her fast enough because God forbid CPS sees her without the kid one more time.
Okay. Let's stop going on.
We're done.
Going in on this woman.
Okay. But seriously, her. And Peter jumps down a floor to inspect what's happening, and he comes face to face with someone in a green mechanical scorpion suit. And I just got to read this dialogue straight from the page. I'm not falling for it. I'm not. And Peter says, okay, what aren't you falling for? I know all your tricks. I'm so much smarter than you, it's not even funny. I'm the Scorpion. I'm better. I know that. It's supposed to be right here. I know I was here. So we don't know what to make of that. Peter thinks he's dealing with a crazy person. And
it makes twice in one day.
Dude, there's a new sheriff in Crazy Town already. The police show up and point their guns at Spidey and the Scorpion, and Scorpion yells, die, and sprays some kind of acid in all the cops' face, and then punches Spider-Man through a kiosk. And the cops open fire on the Scorpion, but his suit is bulletproof, and he blasts some sort of energy beam from his tail. And Peter starts attacking the Scorpion to protect the cops because he backs the Blue. And they threaten to shoot him as a thanks. So that's what he gets.
Everyone's just so stupid when it comes to, like, they're not even like realistically stupid anymore when it comes to how Spider-Man is treated in the public.
But it's
that's
kind
why
of
we
funnier.
have to make up these whole backstories for the characters that hate Spider-Man, because we're like, surely there's more going on to this.
I actually prefer what we get on the page to if this was like somewhat realistic and people were just like, oh, cool, Spider-Man's here to save the day. Because this is so much more entertaining.
Well, clearly this police officer who says, I will shoot you right here as Spider-Man, who's obviously fighting the guy that's blowing everything up. Obviously he and, maybe one of his kids are not getting along right now. The kids are just huge Spider-Man fans. They think Spider-Man's doing what the police officers won't do. And this police officer, he's just had it up to here with him. These vigilantes are not helping Zach.
Why does he wear a mask? What does he have to hide?
Exactly. Thank you.
I don't know where I was. This is just a big fight scene. Peter keeps fighting the Scorpion, and one of the cops actually does fire their gun at him, so Peter webs up all of their guns. And says, "Who are you, masked mystery man? Unveil yourself to the crowd." Which is just strange enough that it made me think, this has got to be a callback to something we've seen before. And sure enough, that was a line in Ultimate Spider-Man issue 3. All the way back in 2000.
If we had seen that before.
We had. I'll tell you later who said it. And so Peter thinks the Scorpion is crazy, and Scorpion keeps saying, "You're not listening. You need to listen." And Peter's just punching the Scorpion until his faceplate breaks off, revealing Peter's own face under the mask. And again, Scorpion Peter says, "Who are you, masked mystery man? Unveil yourself to the crowd." And we change scenes, and we see
But after he says that multiple times, he's not like saying that to Peter. He's saying that, and then he's saying he said that. Like, he's saying it like it's a memory that he is remembering.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That actually does come up later. And then the last scene of this issue, we see Mary Jane arrive safely home. And at this point, I'm like, phew, she actually did leave. Good, she's safe. And she goes up to her room, plops down on her bed, starts writing in her diary, and then smiles. So, she's writing something about Peter. And then
I broke up Peter with his girlfriend today.
Dear diary.
I totally manipulated him into...
Dear
blah,
diary,
blah, 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 blah.
That had it coming. And we see a mysterious figure emerge from her closet, cover her mouth, and abduct her.
That's a sinister way to abduct somebody.
As opposed to like an innocent way?
Yeah, like, hey, can you come with me?
Hey, little girl, do you want to see my puppy?
Well, I'm just saying, that tells us, oh, this isn't like a good person who's taking her.
Sure.
Or even like Nick Fury or someone. This is like a villain.
Yeah, she got abducted by a villain, you guys.
Yeah. Hey, guys. Mary Jane got abducted, but it wasn't by a good person.
Just thought you should know.
Okay, so let's discuss.
Yes. So
who is okay, so tell me about this stuff that Clone Peter was saying.
So in issue 3 of Ultimate Spider-Man, remember when he was doing his wrestling thing?
Yep.
So he beats up whoever it was, Crusher Hogan or Bonesaw McGraw, whoever the wrestler was. And
Zach, I was tutoring some kids the week before spring break, and I was tutoring them until like 4:30, right?
You're not going nowhere.
So it's 4:27, and they're like, oh, can we just pack up? Like, blah 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 blah, you know, and and of course I don't actually care, you know, but I try and put on the face that I want them to work until 4:30. So of course I do the bone saw, like, I got you for 3 minutes. And then, you know, to kill those 3 minutes, I pull up the scene
clip,
and I show it to him. Have you guys ever seen the Spider-Man movie back from like the 2000s? I don't know if they had or not. I don't even remember, but I showed it to him, and I think it's 4:30. See you guys.
Great use of time.
Very great.
Love it. I'm really proud, and that's awesome that it actually was like 3 minutes.
It was. When I looked at the clock, there were 3 minutes left. I thought of it.
Perfect use of that.
Yep.
So yeah, the wrestling referee said that, like, after Peter wins the fight, he's like, "Who are you, mystery man? Unveil yourself before the crowd." And Peter just doesn't. He's like, "Give me my money."
The wrestling thing was not at the mall, obviously, was it?
It wasn't. I don't know why he says it was here. He might just...
Okay,
he could have many memories at the mall, to be fair. He could be getting them jumbled.
That's what I think. Or maybe even, like, he's talking about, like, this moment. You know? I don't know. Maybe there's, like, time stuff going on. Like, he's, like, remembering that this is where MJ maybe died originally or something. Or, I don't know, dude. I have no idea. Kind of what we see in the next issue is making me, like, think about that a little bit more.
Well, one thing seems pretty clear. He probably is crazy to some degree. Like, he is Peter, but, like, he's a Peter whose wires are crossed, you know?
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's saying. There might be some rhyme or reason to what he's saying. It might actually mean something, but I don't think he's the best person to, like, decipher that for us.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I said I like this new MJ a lot. She's fun-loving. She's cracking jokes. When the guy blew up the mall, and Peter's like, "Who's this guy?" And she goes, "Well, if I got superpowers, the first thing I'd do is blow up the mall also." And there's like an explosion happening in the background, and I'm like, this is good. This is good MJ. She's, you know, she's holding her own here. And yeah.
They had their little banter.
They had their banter. I said this was 8.5 out of 10 friend dates at the mall.
Okay. Yeah, I'd also say 8.5 out of 10 friend dates at the mall. One thing that I found throughout this issue and your issue is I kind of wish they didn't name this arc the Clone Saga, because it would be such a good surprise if you're like, oh my god, what? He has Peter Parker's face? What is going on? But when it's on the cover that we're dealing with clones, it kind of spoils it.
You're going to think I'm so stupid, but I forget. I like remembered that it was called the Clone Saga, but I didn't really put any thought into it. And then we're reading the issue, and the guy's face comes off at the end, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is that Harry Osborn, or who is that? Who are we supposed to be looking at right now? Is that Peter? It kind of looks like Peter, but why would Peter? I don't think Peter's here. I think that's Harry Osborn. Maybe I'm like, okay, make a mental note to ask Zach who that guy is.
That's funny.
And then I go into the next issue and I'm like, oh yeah, right. I get to read another issue. I'll surely know who this is. And I'm taking notes in the issue, and Peter's dragging the clone body around. You know, he's doing his thing that we'll get into in the next issue. And then finally, they're like, why is he a clone of me, Peter Parker? And I'm like, oh, that's right. It's the Clone Saga that we're reading. Oh, I should have known that was Peter.
That's funny.
Anyway, I think all the characters just look the same, kind of. Especially if you can't see, like, their hair or, like, their anything else. If it's just, like, their face, I'm like, I don't know who that is.
That is a problem of, like, the last 30 years of comics. Jim Lee did that. Everyone loves Jim Lee, but I'm like, the lasting impact of his art is that people have the same face, everyone has the same body type. You can only tell who people are based off of their hair and costumes. And I don't like that. And I feel like Bagley does a pretty good job of differentiating faces, but sometimes, it's not easy.
Well, I should have known that was Peter. I think I did think
probably,
that.
Yeah.
He was like my second go-to after Harry Osborn, who I always assume is going to be the secret guy. I was like, maybe that's Peter.
Dude, if that was Harry would have had to have gone to like get hair plugs or something, because his hair is not that luscious.
Yeah, it's a big red V. It's a big black and red V on the top of his head.
Yeah. So I did have two little notes that I just wanted to. I should have probably said these before my issues. So just so we remember, this was issue 97. Issue 103 is the record for longest run with the same artist and writer. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So we're closing in. And then the OG Clone Saga. This is like based off of a story that was told in the 90s in the main comics, right?
I didn't know that.
Okay. Well, it is. It's like a Bendis's reinterpretation of the Clone Saga that they did in the mid-90s. And that story was 77 issues. I looked it up. They didn't have an end in mind. They just kind of started it, and it was selling well. So they just kept dragging it out and out and out and writing more and more endings and then retconning those endings. And it lasted for 77 issues. And it was pretty poorly received. So let's see if Bendis can do a better job.
Okay. And is Jonathan Hickman a part of this at all?
No, not at this point.
Okay, cool. All right, we getting into the next one?
We are. Take us there.
Okay, issue 98. Same creative team as issue 97. Ooh, let me get my iPad pulled up. Okay. I got it. Now, Zach, I think that this issue is so fun because of all the interesting stuff that you told us about the Maker last week. Okay?
Isn't it funny how that worked out?
It was so funny how it worked out.
And
it was kismet.
Yes. So at this point, you asked, is Jonathan Hickman in the mix? Is that why you were asking to see if the Maker was, if Reed Richards is a bad guy here?
Not to see if he's a bad guy, but I guess just to see, was this Hickman like writing with any influence? Do we think the writer of this issue knew that Jonathan Hickman had like bigger plans for Reed Richards in this universe?
Hickman wasn't even famous at this point. I don't think he had worked for Marvel at all.
So when did the idea of turning this Reed Richards into the Maker, when did that first come to mind?
I don't know, probably like 4 years after these issues.
Okay.
Like early 2010s. It's funny, though, how easily you can see, just in the little that we get in this issue.
Oh, we're going to talk about it.
You can see, oh, yeah, that guy's going to become the Maker.
No, we're going to talk about it.
Love it.
Definitely. Okay. So, issue 98. We open on the Baxter building. I was so excited when it opened here. I was like, I want to see Reed Richards.
Real quick, this cover.
I watched like a 20-minute video about the Maker and the history of the Maker and like that storyline kind of. I just think comics are so interesting.
Isn't he intriguing?
But there's like, but here's the problem with comics. There's too many of them to read them all.
Yeah.
So I almost find it way more enjoyable to just watch or even listen to just a YouTube video in the background that tells me everything, because that's the stuff I'm interested in anyways. And then I know what happened and I didn't have to read 100 issues. And, you know, sometimes, a lot of times also the comic will still be interesting in the stuff that happens, but it will be like really poorly reviewed. And it's like, well, I don't want to read that anyways if it stinks, but I still like knowing about it, you know.
The way to do it is watch the videos that just explain the issues and then go read the good stuff.
Yeah, that's true. So is all the stuff with the Maker, is that good? Is the Secret Wars good? I remember there's 2 Secret Wars, and one of them is good and one of them is not good.
The one that's not as good is Jim Shooter. The one that's good is
But
Hickman.
we stand Jim Shooter, so now they're both good.
Okay. Retroactively, they're both good.
Oh, something I was going to say last week when we were talking about Jim Shooter. Do you think he's going to get compensated for all the Secret Wars stuff that's going to happen? I sure do hope so.
I don't know if they're going to credit him or Hickman because they're doing the multiverse Secret Wars, which is 2015.
I wish we would have asked him about what he thought about all this stuff.
If there's one thing,
just be like, hey, the MCU's doing. It seems like they're kind of going into Secret Wars, like, that's pretty cool. You wrote Secret Wars, and what do you think about that?
If there's one thing the comics and the movies industry is really, really good at, it's not paying royalties to the creators. So
I know, but they are, but they are getting better at that, right? Because there's like a big stink raised whenever they don't now. But I think they could still stiff Jim Shooter. They'd probably pay Jonathan Hickman.
I don't know. I was surprised. This is getting way off topic, but X-Men 97, the first 2 episodes came out, and I was watching them.
We were going to talk about them afterwards. I was going to bring them up.
Well, at the very end, they have like in the credits, they have a special thanks to section, and they name a bunch of writers and artists throughout the years of X-Men comics, but they still don't name enough for my liking. Like, there's elements of Grant Morrison's run that they use in the cartoon, and I'm like, I don't see Grant Morrison's name on here.
Yeah, you would think if they're going to name a bunch, then when they don't name someone, it's like they're choosing not to.
It feels like an intentional omission, yeah.
Yeah.
This is, real quick, this is maybe my favorite cover of this whole series. If I find this issue out in the wild...
Sexy Spider-Man.
No. If I find this issue out in the wild, I'll probably get it one day just to display.
Why is this your favorite?
Because of that character.
Oh, Zach just spoiled it. Well, this is Kitty Pryde.
We'll see more.
This is Kitty Pryde? Huh.
We'll see more.
Now I'm interested. Okay. We open on the Baxter Building. Reed Richards, the Maker, circa 2005. Reed is asking Johnny Storm to drink something, and he says it's water. And then Johnny drinks it, and Reed tells him it was his own piss. And this
classic
is
prank.
Insane supervillain stuff right here. This is maybe worse than trying to take over the universe, is forcing your longtime buddy to drink your piss.
Your little brother-in-law.
Yeah. So... the Fantastic Four see on their security
Hold on
TV.
real quick. You're glossing over this. He's like, oh, I molecularly distilled this and turned my pee back into water. It's not like he's just handing him a nice, crisp, amber cup. It's supposedly water. On a molecular scale, he's like, I gave you water, but it was originally my pee.
And he says, I watched that Kevin Costner movie, Waterworld, and he turns his own water into pee and drinks it, and I wanted to see if it was possible.
Turns out it is.
Which is what everyone remembers from that movie. And I only know that because, did you ever watch Gen V?
Yeah.
They say that in Gen V, Sam says that. He's like, Waterworld's my favorite movie. All anyone remembers from it is that Kevin Costner drinks his own pee. And then that's the one line we get about it here from Reed.
I had a friend in like middle school who was like, oh, this is my favorite movie. You got to watch it. And I'm like watching this thing and I'm midway through it and I'm like, so what do you like about it? Is there like, what are we doing here?
That's funny. I've never seen it. Okay, so the Fantastic Four see on their security TV that Spider-Man is at the Baxter Building with his new clone. And he asks Reed, before he can tell him who the See, dude, I didn't know that they were clones at this point, so I was like calling him the new villain of the week and the new villain and all this stuff. I'm like, I don't know who this is. So before he takes the mask off of the guy and he tells Reed who it is, he's like, I need to know that I can trust you, that you can you figure out what's going on without like setting off alarms? And Reed's like, I should be able to. And he's like, can you figure it out without Nick Fury finding out that you're doing this? And Reed's like, definitely. And we see his face light up. So I think, him and Fury must not have a good relationship.
He is already doing things that he has to hide from Nick Fury.
Yeah, he's drawn. Maybe this is just because we know that he turns into like this ultimate supervillain, but he's drawn with very like sinister vibes he's giving off to me. Like,
he's like always smirking, and it kind of looks like, is this guy just a smart aleck or something? But retroactively knowing that he like will become evil, these smirks get played very differently.
Yeah, he's always smirking, and he's always forcing his buddies to drink his piss. Something's just off about this guy.
And he's very well acquainted on what he has to do to keep his experiments secret from Nick Fury.
Yeah. And so I said he clearly isn't a huge fan of Fury. Perhaps he will destroy the universe about it one day. And Peter takes off the Scorpion's mask and reveals it's a Peter Parker clone. And they put the clone in a tank to study. And Sue explains that his tail is grafted onto his spinal cord, which makes this an illegal biocraft. And Reed is saying, he's like, 94.2% match. And he's like, this is strange because clones are usually either 100% match or they're 0% match. But this is like, and he's like going through it, and he's like, but this is saying it's Peter Parker, it's high schooler, but something's off. And Peter flips out. He says, I'm Peter Parker, so who is that and what's going on? And Zach, you look like maybe you were going to interrupt me there a second ago. So did you have something to add?
The line, his tail mechanism is grafted into his spinal cord. That's an illegal biograft. Okay, Sue, what are you, a biograft lawyer? Are you up on all the current biografting laws?
Here's the only reason I think that line pays off is because I think you're supposed to immediately know that this is an Oscorp situation, because it's Oscorp that was doing all of the bio stuff we've heard about, right? Isn't it always like starting with Oscorp?
And
I
Hammer.
think that's what they were and Hammer, but even Hammer was like Oscorp adjacent.
And Shield.
All right.
And there's aliens in this universe.
All right. I guess when I heard that, I did right away think of like, didn't they say that a bunch with Osborn back in the day? They were like, Osborn, you're genetically around.
And the Tinkerer.
Okay. So
we're back to square one, truly.
Yeah. And now we're at the Triskelion. We cut there. And Fury's getting a call from Reed. And Reed asks him if there's anything going on with human cloning. And Fury's like, no, we're not allowed. It's against the rules. And he tells Reed he's not allowed to do it either. He's like, don't do that, Reed. I mean it. And Reed says he was just wondering because he read an article about it and he was thinking. And like, that's such a sitcom level lie. To just call up like, effectively, we'll just call him like the president of everything that's going on. To just call him up and be like, dude, that's something you'd see in South Park. Like, hey, I was just wondering, is anything going on with human cloning? Yeah, I just read an article about it, so I was kind of wondering, but okay, thanks. See ya.
Hey, have we changed our minds about that? No? Okay, cool.
And so, but Fury obviously doesn't catch on. He doesn't know what's going on. He just goes back to like his day. And Reed and Fury hang up. Peter on the other end of the line
I love Nick
immediately.
Fury so much. Dude,
so do I.
Here for one page and just made my life so much better. God's perfect idiot.
I think the only way that could have been better is if we saw that Nick Fury was doing something like unimportant, you know?
He's like building a house of cards or something.
Yes, that would be amazing. That'd be amazing. Because it just cuts to him and we just see General Fury, Reed Richards is on the line. And then like Fury takes over at his big desk and they're on a phone. And right, that's how it's supposed to seem like we're cutting into it. Like we're at the Triskelion where something important is always happening. And it would just be great if we cut to Nick Fury. That'd be the best thing. If he just had a house of cards that was on his desk.
We need so many Nick Fury memes to take off. Like, you know how SpongeBob and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like everything gets turned into a meme because it just has these like ubiquitous moments. Yeah. I feel like Nick Fury has had 100 of those in this run so far.
He has. Yeah, he does truthfully just show up for one page, and he usually is pretty good.
Steals the show, but not in like an impressive way.
He does. Nick Fury has the most like static characterization of anybody in this run. You know what you're going to get from him every time. So Reed and Fury hang up, and Peter immediately says Fury's lying. But Reed says, no, he wasn't. I have virtual sensors that can track things, and Fury was telling the truth. And Sue says, it wasn't he who made this clone for you. And Zach, I pointed that line out because that's damn good grammar, even though it may not sound like it. Because most people writing this line, and maybe they did write it, they would say it wasn't him who made that suit, who made that clone for you, or what'd she say? Who made this clone of you. But at some point, this got changed to, it wasn't he who made this clone for you, and that is grammatically correct, because it's acting as the predicate nominative in the subject, which is subjective case, so you want to use he instead of him.
I hate the English language.
Well, you know how you're kind of a dork about architecture and it's kind of like a bit that you do, that you like talk about it? I sort of do the same thing with grammar. I obviously don't care about this. It's kind of like a bit, but that's good. That's good editing or writing. You know, they made that grammatically correct for a reason. So Sue's a smart lady.
She is.
You know the show This Is Us?
Yeah.
That is not grammatically correct. It should be This Is We. I know that. I know it doesn't sound as right, but that is how that is grammatically correct. This is we.
Wow. Thanks. I hate it.
Wow. So, and where was I? Oh yeah. And Peter asks Reed, okay, it wasn't Fury, and it wasn't you, was it? And Reed looks at the clone admiringly and says, I wish. It's brilliant. And yeah, there's something off about this guy, you know, even for like a super genius. He's like very socially, he doesn't have very good social cues, you know, like he can't tell when the stuff he's thinking is messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Peter's obviously pretty freaked out about this clone of him, and Reed is not. He's just looking at it like it's a science experiment.
He's like, ooh, fascinating. I wish I had made that.
Yeah. So Reed asks for a bit of Peter's blood, which every time that's ever happened in this run, only good things have come from it. And he wants to compare it to the Scorpions. And they're about to wake up clone Peter when real Peter remembers that he's about to get grounded if he doesn't get home, and he swings out the window. And I just think that's like the most high school thing ever. And the thing says, dude left his clone. And Johnny responds, that is so lame. And then we see Peter running back to the house, and he's kind of thinking to himself that he's going to try to make up an excuse and sneak back out. But he opens the door and Aunt May is already freaking out, and she asks Peter if MJ is with him. And she says MJ is missing. She came home from school, went to her room, and disappeared because, as we remember from the last issue, somebody, a bad person abducted her. And Peter sprints out of the house to go look for her. So Peter is at MJ's looking around her room with her mom, and we see that there's handprints and footprints leading up and down from MJ's room on the outside. And somebody should have spotted that by now. That's like that'd be a very obvious thing to look for. If you think your child snuck out of their room or was kidnapped out of their room or something, I would look on the outside of the house to see if there's like footprints and handprints.
Also,
or something.
They're all muddy and they're barefoot. It's like this person was running on all fours barefoot in the mud.
You're right. Yeah, they're very obvious. Huh. So it was sneaking in. It wasn't sneaking out. I mean, maybe it could have been both. Okay, so MJ's mom is like, "Yeah, do you know where she could have gone? Does she have any place she likes to run away to?" And Peter remembers the old warehouse place that MJ ran away to last time and runs over there, telling himself, I know she'll be there. But when he gets to the warehouse, it's empty. Until someone from off-panel says, "Sorry, Tiger." And Peter turns around to see Spider-Man lady hanging against the wall. And I would have thought that this was MJ, because she says Tiger. Isn't that an MJ thing?
Yeah, I think that's what we're supposed to think.
Okay. And Peter yells at the lady and says, "Give me MJ." Well, you'd think that's what Peter would say right away also. You know?
Well, he says, "Where is MJ?" And she says, "Mary Jane Watson." I'm not her, if that's what you think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but he asks, anyway, you know. I guess he wouldn't be thinking that that's MJ right away. So Peter asks who the spider lady, who she is, and she says, "Who do I look like?" And dude, you're in a fully latex suit. There's not an inch of this woman showing. How could he possibly know who she is?
I mean, who does she look like?
I think it's a chick, Peter. Okay? Because she looks like Spider-Man to me. And she calls Peter Tiger when he's looking for MJ. So, and I think something else happens that I'll get to later, maybe. Because I put that in my notes, but I'm not there yet. And then Peter asks who MJ is, and the spider lady says, "I'm not her, if that's what you think." And Peter yells at the lady and says, "Give me MJ. There's nothing I won't do to protect her." And the spider lady says, "Yeah, great job so far." And Peter lunges towards her. And that's when I put in my notes, I think that this is a girl Peter clone. Because it is the clone saga, after all.
Okay. So did that line get you there at all? Or did you just come to that?
Which one?
Great job so far.
A little bit. Because I'm ruling out people who it could be. And I'm starting to get... And I don't have anyone else I can think of who it would be. Except for Peter. Why? Who do you think it is?
I know who it is.
I know! This is so lame. Who did you think it is the first time you read it? Think back.
I can't remember. I probably suspected it was a new character.
Okay. In the arc titled The Clone Saga.
Yeah. Well, all you can see is her brown hair, so it might be Kitty or it might be someone we haven't seen yet. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it could... I mean, like, it could be MJ, a clone. It could be, like, Gwen. It could be any girl, because they all have the same body type and the same, like, features when they want to be drawn that way, I feel like. So it could be a lot of people. Let's see. Peter and the spider lady begin to fight for a second, but then Peter is easily webbed up, and she sends webbing out of just the tip of her finger, and it, like, crashes into Peter with some force. It, like, knocks him through a couple of walls and, like, brings down the warehouse, like down on top of him. So this is a power that our Peter obviously doesn't have. And she tells Peter that he is off his game. Oh yeah, this is where I'm like, oh, maybe this is MJ. So then the Spider Lady tells Peter that he's off his game. And MJ said that to Peter earlier in the last issue. She says that he's like in his own head and he's not doing his best. But then the Spider Lady gets nervous because she thinks she may have killed him, bringing the warehouse down on him. But then she sees his hand move and she's like, oh, thank God he's okay. And then she says, and I'm going to read this word for word. She says, I shouldn't have come here. This was my fault. I just had to see this for real. I'll get them back for you, Peter. I'll do it for all of us. We didn't deserve this. And she swings away into the moonlight. This is very interesting. I don't know who this is, Zach. This could be a Lady Peter, or it could be one of his clone friends. I wish you could talk to me.
I'll say this. You are not going to remember this at all, but last year, in like one of the early episodes of this podcast, I told you I went to a toy shop in Muncie and I found in the wild, I found like one of the few action figures that I was like kind of looking for and wanted to get. And I said, it's someone from this series that we haven't met yet. And you were like trying to figure out who it was and it was eating you up. And I was like, you're not going to know. And it's been sitting right here.
Don't show me don't show me the if it has the name on there.
It doesn't.
Okay.
It's been sitting right here in my desk every day that we've podcasted since then.
Wow, she's got a secondary suit.
That's something they do with these toys where it's like if you buy all of them from that whatever group, you can build an extra action figure.
Well, who is this? I just don't think that this makes sense if it's Kitty, and I hope it's not, because she's saying things that I don't think she would say. But maybe it is. The fact that you like this character so much is making me think it's Kitty, and I hope it's not. Okay. All right. So Peter wakes up, and he continues to run around looking for MJ. And he sees a light on at the old Parker house where him and Aunt May moved out of. And he thinks to himself, maybe MJ went to our old house. And he comes in and he calls to her. And somebody says to him, you moved. When did you move? And he turns and we see it's Gwen. I'm shook. And we cut to the real MJ. She's lying unconscious in a big tube prison cell in a rundown laboratory. She wakes up and begins banging on the tube to be let out. But someone shadowed walks over to her and says, don't do that, MJ. Just calm down. And she faces towards him and says, Peter? Confused. And she yells at him, Peter, what are you doing? And shadowy Peter says, I know how to protect you. I should have thought of this years ago. And MJ begins to scream to be let out. And Peter says, shh, it's okay. I'm going to make sure no one ever hurts you again. And as the issue ends, we see that they are in the old abandoned Oscorp building. I mean, I'm just hooked. They've got me hook, line, and sinkered here.
Isn't this good stuff?
This is good stuff, man.
I told you for a while, I was like, yeah, we're in a bit of a lull, but it's going to pick back up. We're in the full swing of things again, where I am so excited to read the next issue.
Well, they've got to bring it home. I want to know, here's some questions I want answered, okay? I want to know what the clone Peter was babbling about, where he says, like, this is the day it happens, or I remember this, or whatever, okay? I want to hear that. And then I want all this clone stuff to be tied up nicely. There's not that many things I want to know.
Now, we'll see if that's asking too much, because having all this clone stuff tied up nicely was absolutely asking too much for the original Clone Saga in the 90s.
Well, there has to be some... I guess we're getting an older Peter here that is That's what I'm guessing, because he says I should have thought of this all those years ago. So I'm thinking that this is a Peter from like another universe or something who maybe his MJ died, and that's why now he's like older and he wants to find a way to protect her. But I don't understand any of it.
Interesting. We'll see. We are going to be on the edge of our seats until next week when we get to continue this.
Yeah, okay. So what did you I have a rating scale for this one too.
Okay. What's your scale?
I have out of 10 clones of all of our high school friends. Because I think we got some clones in here. We got a Peter clone, we got a Gwen clone. I'm just guessing that there's an MJ clone floating around. A lady clone.
I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10 clones of our high school buddies.
Wow. Really? That's really high.
This was as strong of a start to a story arc as we have had in a long, long time.
Yep, I do agree with that. Okay, I'll bump mine from an 8.5 to a 9 out of 10 clones.
8.5. So you thought this was just as good as my issue?
I thought that they were both really, really good. Like, I don't know. It's hard to give a 9, and it's especially hard to give a 10. But I think these two were just about as good of issues as they could have gotten. So they probably both deserve at least a 9. They were both great. A Kong clone would have sealed the deal.
Hey, there's still time.
Yep. I want to see
Lady Kong.
I want to see the Lady Spider-Man rip her mask off, and it's just Kong as a lady.
That'd be sick.
That would be awesome.
But we already... Okay, what are the two things we've seen about her? She's thin and she has hair. So how would we even know that it's Kong?
I know. Well, I think... Yeah, I mean, obviously we wouldn't. Obviously it's not Kong, but that would make it better if they did make it. Maybe in this other universe, Kong is a sexy lady.
Maybe. Who's to say?
All right, you got anything else about this Clone Saga, the first part of these issues?
I don't. So next week, this is going to be a treat. Issues 99 and 100.
Oh my gosh. The Centennial.
Yes.
Is it a special one?
I think it might be double-sized. I'm going to have to see. I'm sure it is.
Okay.
And then
99.
And then we're okay, that's fine. And then we're inching closer to issue 103, which would be the record.
And is that a special one?
I doubt it. If they do a special one for 100...
You are kind of just like counting down to it as if it's like a special one. Like,
I mean, it's just a kind of cool accomplishment,
It's just like very meta.
Yeah.
Spider-Man and Mary Jane are like, can you believe that we've been doing this for, it seems like 100 weeks.
Yeah. Basically.
Okay, nice. And is that still the Clone Saga? How many more issues do we have of this?
I think the Clone Saga is 6 issues, it said, or maybe 8.
So that'll go to 102 or 104.
We're doing this for a while.
Okay. Nice. Well, I like it. Another episode of issues in the books, Zach. What else do we have for the people?
Did you watch X-Men 97? You said we'll talk about that.
No, I didn't. I wanted to hear what you had to say about it. I know it came out, and I've heard nothing but really good things about it.
Oh,
so
shoot.
I figured you watched it, and I figured I'd get to hear about it.
Well, I almost feel like we should have you watch it and talk about it next week. At which point, there would also be...
You can talk about it today.
Episode 3 out. I don't think you...
Give me your initial thoughts.
Okay, my initial thoughts...
I just don't care about it, I didn't watch the X-Men growing up. So,
yeah.
I've heard really good things.
I had a buddy...
But that's why it wasn't one that I, raced to my I didn't even know that it came out until I saw the reviews about it.
Did you see LeBron James has been tweeting about it?
No, but now I'll watch it.
He's a big fan.
Because I love LeBron.
It's funny, when he beat the Pacers in the midseason tournament championship, I tweeted, well, at least I can take heart in the fact that LeBron is still a little and I know more about the X-Men than him. And here he is throwing down the gauntlet.
He's a little
Yeah, I tweeted that.
You're a little. Why are you hating on LeBron James?
Because he beat the Pacers.
Oh, you haters.
I was a hater. I was salty. I was like, at least I know more about the X-Men than LeBron. He can be good at his little basketball game, but I can explain the Summers family tree, and that's what really matters. And then he comes out of the woodwork, and he's like, all right, X-Men's my new thing. And I'm like, damn it.
He's going to be the best at X-Men now.
Yes. I got to give it to him. He's the ultimate competitor.
One of my kids, one of the kids at school, he was saying something, you know, he was like trying at math for the day, and he never tries. He's always like a class clown type of kid. And so he like focused up and got a problem right with me working on him. Like I walked him through it, and he's like, yes, Mr. Opat, I'm like the LeBron James of math. And I always joke around with these kids, and I was kind of making a joke. I hope he didn't take it too seriously. And I go, you are like the LeBron James of math, because he didn't go to college. The point I was like trying to make was like, you are better than LeBron James at math, because LeBron James didn't go to college. But I think the way the joke landed was like, you're not going to college, buddy.
Yeah, that's how I took it, and that's funny.
Okay, good stuff.
But no, the show, it's good. It's hard for me to separate it as like a diehard X-Men comics fan, because it's having a lot of negative consequences on the comics. But I will say, for what it is, for what it set out to do, it's very good. It's like pure 90s nostalgia. It's pretty creative in some spots. It's well written.
I heard Cyclops was good in it. So, because everyone's like, oh, Cyclops is good. And it's like, Cyclops is always good.
Yeah.
He's just no good in the movies.
Yeah, the world is finally figuring out that he's cool.
Yeah.
There was some discussion before it came out that, like, okay, the MCU is going to live or die with the X-Men on whether or not they do Storm right and whether or not they do Cyclops right. Those are like the two characters they have to hit out of the park for people to be invested in this, because, you know, they weren't done well in the other movies. And so far, I think the cartoon, that's really where it's like sticking the landing, is those two characters, they understand them for like the first time ever.
I just don't think the movies are good anymore.
They're not.
I know. And I don't think that they will be. You know, or even if they are good, it'll just never get back to the hype of like the Infinity Saga and everything like that. Because that was just like, everybody cared about that. And now it seems like the comic book movies are mostly just for like people who like those characters now. They're not mainstream anymore, because there's like too many of them now for it to be mainstream, I guess. I don't know. Does that make sense, Zach?
Yeah, but also it might never get back to that level where it's just like an absurd amount of hype.
And that just means, to me, I won't care about them as much as that.
I mean, if they do Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, and the X-Men right moving forward, I think the future could still be very bright for the MCU. And those are properties that I would care about way more than the Avengers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe this can be your time.
Yeah. Every dog has his day.
Okay, well, I will watch X-Men, and we can talk about the episodes next week. But it sounds like they got a gold star from you to start.
Yeah.
Out of one
it's
gold star, did they get a gold star or not?
They got a gold star.
Okay, good. They got 1 out of 1 gold stars. And another animated... I didn't get to do my joke. Darn it. I was going to say, okay, Zach, an animated show that's been gone for a really long time came back this week. Invincible.
Oh, yeah, I watched that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Everyone was talking about how they...
The first 2 episodes have been back at this point.
Oh, I haven't seen the second one yet. Everyone was talking about how they killed their own hype by waiting so long.
I mean, I don't think so. I think it's like smart television, you know? Like, that's what TV shows used to do. They would take like a winter break, and then, you know, you'd get half the season, then a break, then half the season. I even saw these two people talking about it. And Zach, sometimes I'm like, Zach and I are so much more educated than like some of these people that talk about this type of stuff, because they're like, oh, they should just drop it. They were saying the same thing, you know, it killed all the hype and they should just drop everything at once. And you just can't say stuff like that without at least talking about the reason why they won't do that, which is, now we've been talking about Invincible for 5 months, and we're going to talk about it every week for the next 5 weeks while the show's going on. Whereas when shows drop all of the episodes at once, it's over in a week.
Yeah.
You know, and it's out of the zeitgeist again. Everyone's moved on to the next thing. It's just like not as smart of a way to do stuff. Even though it feels better for us, the consumers, you know, it's just not a good way to do it.
I feel
and
that.
I'm glad that companies don't do it, because I like getting to look forward to stuff, you know. Even though it would feel nice to just binge 8 episodes and to know what the story's going to be, it's not as fun.
Yeah. You are right. One thing that I think that specifically has hindered is The Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime. I love that show. It was like 2 years between the first season and the second season, and then they drop, you know, both seasons, they drop them all at once. So you binge them, and then you go 2 years, and then you've like forgotten all the lore and the characters and where we left off, and then you binge it and you leave up on a really high place, and you're like, oh, cool.
Now I got to wait 2 more years.
Guess I got to wait, an unspecified amount of time for this to go anywhere. And I think that would be, because they made that show with the expectation that it was the next Game of Thrones. I think it could have been if, and obviously COVID messed up the like filming and release of the first season and everything, but I think it could have been the next Game of Thrones if they weren't releasing it that way, because, you know, so few people heard about it, and then so few people kept talking about it. And especially by the end of season 2, it's a good product. It's just, you're not going to hear about it again for a long time.
Yeah. And it doesn't have all the shows where, you know, you get like an episode 1 breakdown, an episode 2 breakdown, and then it's like bringing in new fans who can catch up before the finale happens, you know. Like, that's what I did with Breaking Bad. The like season 5 was going on and everyone was watching it, so I just caught up, and then I got to like experience that with everybody. But if it was all just binged, well, my motivation's not really there to like binge it, because it's not like an event. Yeah, well, that's too bad. I think shows do take too long now. Gotta go back to a year break. The Boys has been off for like, it's gonna be like 3 years. It's
a shame.
Maybe 2. I know.
I want my content, and I want it to be convenient and timely.
Can't these actors just like work? Nobody wants to work anymore, Zach. Okay, what else do you have? I had Invincible and X-Men. Those were my 2 big things to discuss.
That's pretty much it for me as well.
Oh, wait, what did we even think about Invincible?
Dude, I'm trying to remember what happened in that episode. So like, some of the team squad started dying, and
dude, the
aliens are coming or something.
They're in a big fight on the Martian ship. Half of the team is in a big fight getting their butts kicked on the Martian ship, and then the other half of the team is like dead from the Lizard League.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
I know. And what's his name? Rafi from The League. Did you ever watch The League?
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, Zach, you would just love that show.
I think you
tried to watch it.
I tried at one point.
It's a fantasy football show.
I know it is. On paper, I would love it. On paper, I would love all football movies and shows, and I never do.
Well, it's funny. Anyway, the guy who voices Rexplode is like he's a pretty famous actor at this point. You would recognize him from other stuff.
I know him from Big Mouth, which you're not supposed to admit to watching because it's a cringy show.
I watched the first couple seasons of that. And then I grew up.
Yeah, it has gotten really worse, but like my wife and some of our friends all still watch it, so when a new season comes out, I kind of have to watch it, but I don't love it.
Okay. Well,
it's embarrassing to say you watch.
Well, yeah, that guy's in there, and he's about to, I don't know. Hopefully he can get out of the situation he's in, but it sure as heck doesn't look good for him.
He's donezo. He's a goner.
He's donezo. Well, you'll have to watch episode 2 and episode 3 by next week, and I'll watch the X-Men.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
I had a buddy who has like no interest in superheroes at all text me and was like, hey, is that X-Men show any good? And I'm like, yeah. And then he texted me this morning. He's like, I watched it and I liked it. I had to Google some stuff because I didn't know what was going on. But other than that, it was cool. And I was like,
nice.
Why did you ask Google? Would you know I love talking about the X-Men? Ask me.
Because if he asks Google, he can be like,
it will shut up.
That is exactly what I was going to say. So like, how did Magneto blah blah blah? And it's like, oh, he was a child in a Nazi camp, and Zach would talk for 18 hours about the different universes and what happened to Magneto in each one.
I'm sorry, I'm like this.
No, I like it, Zach, and so do the webheads.
Yeah, it sure makes for podcast content.
Okay, what else do we have? Anything else fun from this week?
Not that I can think of.
Or we forgot
to mention it last week.
The jam of the week.
Last week's jam of the week was a John pick. You want to tell him?
It was the song Rasputin by somebody. And
how's it go, John?
Dude, I'm not even going to try. But here's what I'll say. It's a catchy little jaunt, and it's fun to dance to. If anyone can picture the dance that they do in Elf, where he's in the mailroom, and he goes down, and he goes up, and then he goes down, and he goes up, that's the Rasputin dance.
Yep. Makes you want to do that. And didn't we decide in the car going to Comic-Con that it was like in one of the Dance Dance Revolution games or something?
Yes, it's in like a Dance Dance Revolution game. That's kind of how that's kind of what put it in my head was I saw this video of this woman doing it, and she is just killing it. Like, she's not even looking at the screen. She's turned around looking at her husband or boyfriend or something who's recording her, and the dance moves are going on behind her, and she's just crushing it. She knows the whole thing memorized. And I was like, damn, this song's awesome. And it's in a Doctor Who episode also, which is kind of fun.
My shitty knees could never.
I can do a couple of those before I have to give myself some time to breathe.
I would crumple like an aluminum can.
So that was the jam of the week. And then, I did listen to Vindicated.
Oh, yeah, Dashboard Confessional.
Okay, to their credit, as an emo band, I listened to that song on my way to bowling a couple Wednesdays ago, and without even trying to, I found myself thinking about what my friends, how if my friends would be sad if I died.
What the
Oh, dude, it's the song. It's like, it's emo. So I like caught myself thinking about that, and I was like, what the am I listening to? Like,
I don't think
these guys knew what they were doing.
I don't think of that as a sad song at all.
No way, dude. It definitely is. I'm going to pull up the lyrics to it right now. Vindicated lyric. Let me think. Or it's just the beat and it's just Dashboard Confessional.
Dude, that's like such like an up tempo song to me. That's like that's like a victorious song in my mind.
There's a bunch of like I don't know. It's just a bunch of emo lyrics, right?
You're so dismissive of it.
I am. I listened to it for like a minute and a half and I had to like catch myself and be like, okay, Dashboard Confessionals. Too good at being emo. I gotta listen to something else here.
I got to be careful with these jams of the week from now on, because, John, if that was emo to you, if that was sad, I've got some songs that will make you jump. And I don't mean dance.
Okay, well, what is it this week? You are, it's your turn.
Oh, man. The jam of the week is not even something that I would normally listen to, but it's just been stuck in my head all week.
It's just the song of the week.
It's
exactly.
just been stuck in my head for absolutely no reason. It's Champagne Supernova by Oasis.
That's a great one.
Don't know how it got in there, but I've just been humming it.
Okay, let's think. How would this have gotten into your head? Because this is in some pop culture.
Champagne
Supernova. Maybe you saw it on a TV show.
I think it was on like an Instagram reel or something.
Well, that's a jam. Okay, so I'll make sure to listen to it this week.
It made me... I've never thought about Oasis more than like 2 seconds, but it made me go down to the Wikipedia well of like, what's the drama between those brothers?
Dude, did you know Oasis? I'm really like pulling a piece of trivia out of my arse here, but I'm pretty sure they have like a record-setting number of like number ones or something, or they're just like a really... I guess a way to say it would be, I'm pretty sure that they are a lot more popular than I thought that they were.
Yes, they're one of those bands.
Yeah. So there's some trivia for you.
Yes, they're a very big deal to some people. I don't see the hype, but whatever.
Well, they've got 3 good songs. They have Champagne Supernova, they have Wonderwall, and they have... What's the third one, Zach?
Probably something.
Let's see.
I couldn't tell you.
Oasis. Greatest hits. What's the... Live Forever. Oh, and they have Don't Look Back in Anger. See, so they've got 4 good ones.
Okay.
They've got 4 good songs.
4 good songs.
A pretty good band.
That's all it takes to be considered one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah. Okay, so what's their drama? Since you mentioned it, let's talk about their drama.
The brothers just hate each other. They just they broke up like backstage. They were supposed to headline some festival, and then they were just like, "Yeah, we're not coming out because I can't stand being in a band with my brother for one more second." And then they just like haven't talked for 10 years except to talk shit about each other in the media.
Oh my God, guys, get over it.
Yeah,
like, jeez. You know who else used to hate their siblings? Every sibling in history. And then they get over it at a certain point.
True.
Soft, man.
They are soft
kids these days.
Oasis is soft.
Yeah, 4 good songs.
You know who else had 4 good songs? Bowling for Soup.
They've got more than 4. Okay. They've got Girl All the Bad Guys Want. They've got 1984.
85.
1980. Oh yeah, sorry, that's a book. 1985. They've got
the Phineas
High
and
School
Ferb,
Never Ends.
Phineas and Ferb theme song.
Okay, we'll give it to them.
I've crowd surfed to that before. To them at Warped Tour.
So that's at least 4 right there, and they have more. So Bowling for Soup, better than Oasis.
Yeah, I stand by it.
Should we end it on that note?
I think so.
Okay. Thank you to Ian Hickey for the music and Alyssa Seaman for the artwork. And thank you all for listening and leaving us a review or a comment. You can find us, the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, on Spotify or Apple Music or anywhere else you find podcasts. Or you can come and chat with us and leave us a message on Instagram at First Read Podcast. Send us an email at firstreadspidey@gmail.com or find us on YouTube, First Read Ultimate Spider-Man Podcast. See you next week.
See ya.